Hey everybody, Sean here and welcome back. If you're new to the channel, hey, thanks for stopping by. All right, this episode we're going to be talking about reissues. Are they worth it? I mean more, not money-wise, but as in, quality. Is it worth getting them because of the, quality? Also, are they affecting the original press and market? So let's talk about quality here, right? I mentioned it on my last episode my collection update when I got the Testament albums, right? I said that the hey girl, dog's in here. I was talking about, sound wise they sounded good, right? But quality, I mean the artwork was, not the best. So that's one kind of point I want to talk about. I got it, they're not the original, right? I don't know if sometimes that the quality on the artwork suffers because they don't have the art, the original artwork, or if it's, they're just trying to do it as cheap and as quick as possible. I'm not picking on Testament or anything like this, but, from my understanding, this was like an official, this was an official, wants attention. This was an official reissue, right? I mean, they posted it on their website and everything, and quality-wise, music and everything wise, it sounds pretty good. Now the other one's in here. He's wanting to play. So, music-wise, sound-wise, it's not bad. But like artwork, I don't know if you can tell, man, but it's really fuzzy. It's pixelated, and you can even see lines, right, going through it. And in the back, real fuzzy. Now this is the tape. I know it's a smaller picture, but look at the quality. Look how clear that is, right? And this thing's, almost 40 years old, 30 something years old. And the same thing on the new order. Knocking the mic there. See, just real kind of hazy and fuzzy looking. And then on back the picture, you can tell really pixelated. And then here on the original, the tape, it's just cleaner looking. Now, like I said, that could be because, the company doing the reissue and everything, they don't have that original artwork. I understand that. I've got that. But I kind of think that they should put a little bit more, quality control on it. Especially with technology being like it is, with computers and everything, you think that they could sharpen things up. But with that being said, there's other reissues that I've got that are pretty good. I've got a lot of them, but I'm not going to pull them all out. Put this away here. But like this one here, this is Dangerous Toys. This is their third album, Pissed. I know when this came out, it wasn't on vinyl, right? It was on, I think, tapes. And I got the tape, but I've also got the CD. But it's pretty clear, man. The artwork on it's good. You don't see any of the fuzziness. Everything is really clear. Pictures on the inside look good. Great album, by the way. And then even Cowboys from Hell. This is not, the original. Once again, this is what, 35 years old? When it came out, and look, I mean, the reissue they did on this is clear, man. Look at that. On the back. And then even this reissue, I think this was a record store day, the reissue of Judas Priest, Sad Wings of Destiny. Man, this one's awesome. They put a little more detail in it. It's raised right there. It's kind of hard to, I don't know if you can tell, but it's glossy and it's raised. I mean, that's cool, They do stuff like that. I think it's really worth, talking price, it's worth it. The Testament albums, they wasn't that much. I think they were $22 and $24, so that wasn't bad. I mean, maybe you get what you pay for, but I just think that they should, be able to do a little bit better, QC on it, quality. I mean, I've got Overkill albums back there, man. The artwork looks good. I mean, I've got some other ones back there that look kind of hazy and fuzzy, but didn't want to dig through them. But so what do y'all think about that, man? I mean, like I said, I guess, like I said, I don't know if it's just they're cutting corners, trying to do it quick and cheap, or like I said, it could be they don't have that original artwork. All right, now as for the current, original pressing, the original market, what do you think that these new issues do to that? Do you think that affects it? For example, could it lower the price of some of these that are really expensive due to the fact that people can get out and get the reissue? Or does it keep the price the same? And also with these reissues, they're not pressing them, 100,000 copies at a time like they did in back in the day. They may only do 1,000 or 2,000 or even 500. So with that being said, does that just come part of the market and then they just raise the price on that? Because I have seen that as well. If you don't get some of these first, couple hundred, or 500 pressings, you'll see it on Discogs for $30 more than what it actually was. But kind of my thoughts on that. I think it kind of depends on the record, right? I think if you have some of the original pressings, let's say Van Halen, for example, right? They sold a lot of records back in the day. Now they've reissued it. I thought that was kind of weird because I've never had a problem coming across a Van Halen album, especially the David Lee Roth stuff. Now some of the Sammy, the Van Hagar era, they're kind of tough. 5150 is pretty easy. OU 812 took me a little bit to get that one, but for Unlawful Carnal Knowledge, that one is really hard to find on vinyl. But so I thought it was kind of cool that they reissued those so you can get that. But the David Lee Roth stuff, I never really saw a point to reissue that other than, just to make a little bit more money because, I got all my original pressings for like 10, 15, 10, 12, 15 bucks, man. It was cheap and they're great copies. But what about like some of the hard to find ones? For example, the Testament albums, New Order and Practice What You Preach, man, that'd cost you $80 or more, or even north of $100 to get one of the original pressings. So could this affect that? If they put these out, could people that have been sitting on the original for a while, could they, lower the price? Just kind of my thoughts. I don't see that happening. I mean, it just seems like the original pressings for albums are just, they stay in the same price, so they're just getting higher and higher. But let me know what y'all think on that. Leave some comments and stuff. And then finally, when it comes to reissues, are y'all just like, forget it, I don't care, I'm a, original pressing type of person? Or do you, do you get the reissues? Me personally, I like to get them, depending on, the price and everything. If they're 30, 40 bucks, I'm just like, I don't know if I really want it that bad. But if the quality is good or they did something a little different, maybe cool colors or, like the Sad Wings of Destiny, they did a little bit different on their artwork, or they throw in an extra, one or two songs that you haven't heard before. Yeah, I might go get it. But, that's kind of how I think, like I said, I'm cheap and, I'll usually go for what's cheap. If I see a reissue of an album and there's original and the original is 80 bucks and the reissue is 25, man, I'm going $25 all day long, especially as long as the quality of the recording is good. But anyway, that's my thoughts on all this. Feel free, leave me some comments down below and tell me what you think about it. Do you like reissues? Do you not? Do you skip them? Do you buy them? Let me know. And once again, man, that's it. And thanks for watching. And until next time, y'all take care.